Sometimes we ask questions like, where are you going? Or where are you coming from? And we do not necessarily mean a literal place of destination or a literal place of origin. Pareho ba sa Tagalog na saan ka ba papunta sa sinasabi mo? O ano ba ang pinanggagalingan mo? That hasn't got to do with the place. We can ask the same questions, not literally but figuratively. As in, where are you going with this issue? Why don't you just go straight to the point? Or where is he coming from about this problem? Is there a context? Is there a background to it? Nagtatanong si Peter kay Jesus, where are you going? And I feel that what he's asking, really asking, is, what do you mean? Saan ka ba papunta sa sinasabi mo, Jesus? Ano ba yung pinupunto mo? In Tagalog, we would say, hindi siya nakasakay. And the answer of Jesus to him is, where I am going now, you cannot follow me, but later, you will be able to follow me. A simpler way of putting it in the language of young people nowadays is, di mo magets ngayon, pero magigets mo rin sa tamang panahon. I wonder if you already noticed that our readings for this Holy Week are focused on particular characters of the Passion story. Kahapon, it was Mary of Bethany who anointed Jesus. Tomorrow, it's going to be Judas. Today, it's Peter and John. And during the whole Paschal triduum, it's going to be Jesus in focus. And I wonder if you also noticed na yung transactions nila mostly non-verbal, especially in our reading this evening, in the table fellowship. Mayroong crisis na nangyayari, and they cannot seem to pin down what exactly is going on. Pabulong. They are all talking in whispers. And Jesus has just whispered to those near him that he was going to be betrayed by one of them. And the disciples react, not with words. They look at each other. At si Peter, he wants to know kung sino ba yung tinutukoy ni Jesus. But he does not want to be heard. He does not want to call the attention of the others. So, he will communicate through a body language. He will signal to John by looking and nodding at his head. Santango, nagkaintindihan sila. A signal to find out whom Jesus was talking about. And the young disciple, John, he's going to lean against the chest of Jesus and he's going to whisper also, sino tinutukoy nyo? Who are you talking about? And Jesus is going to whisper back to John. And afterwards, John is going to look at Peter, who is waiting for an answer. Siguro kung Pilipino siya, baka ginamit niya yung bibig niya. Kasi tayo lang mga Pilipino mahiling magturo using our lips. Gano'n, no? Pinoy na Pinoy yan. And I imagine St. John pointing with his lips like that, pointing at what Jesus was about to do. And now Jesus is going to take a little piece of bread. He would dip it and give it to Judas. And Judas will take it. Yun ang answer. And then Jesus will instruct him, do quickly what you are supposed to do. What about the other disciples? How are they interpreting this? Well, they see all of this, but they understand it differently. That Jesus is just reminding Judas of his work. Kasi si Judas ang treasurer, procurator baga, to prepare what they needed for the Passover festival. Malaking piyesta yon. And there were a lot of things to prepare for the celebration. Judas is supposed to be in charge. So the rest are clueless. They are clueless about what was going to happen. Tapos yung pananalita pa ni Jesus, matalinghaga. Well, he is speaking in a cryptic language about the Son of Man being glorified and about the disciples not being able to know where he is going. If there was one character who thought he was fully in command of the situation during that evening, I think it was none other than Peter. Confident siya. He was confident that he knew what was going on through body language, communications, and a lot of nonverbal things, whispering and observing what was going on. Akala niya he knew what was going on. He was calling the shots. Pero nagkamali siya. He was wrong. Actually, he failed to see where Jesus was coming from. And I think he was also whispering when he reacted vehemently to Jesus. Sabi niya, "What do you mean I cannot follow you where you are going? I am even ready to give up my life for you. Handa ako magpakamatay para sa iyo." It was his way of saying, "I am quite sure I know my role here, Jesus. Huwag kang mag-alala. I will not allow anything like that to happen to you." Imagine, after the events unfolded very fast, and suddenly Jesus was already being prepared for execution, Peter would look back. He would look back at those nonverbal communications that had earlier happened doon sa upper room at the table fellowship at the Last Supper. Si St. Luke, meron siyang kakaibang version of the Passion story. He would dramatize that scene after the denials of Peter and after the rooster crowed. And it would also be nonverbal. Jesus will not even say to Peter, "See what I told you?" Or, "Do you now see where I am coming from?" No words. And just as soon as Peter blurts out his third denial, Jesus is being brought away from the house of the high priest. And as he's passing by, he would turn, and his eyes would meet the eyes of Peter. And St. Luke will say, at that moment, Peter broke down and wept bitterly. He wept bitterly. Alam niyo ho, ang luha, the bitter tears are a medicine for people afflicted with false self-confidence. People who are so sure of themselves. Sabi nila, we see clearly only with eyes washed by many tears. Just one look was enough. But Peter will remember what Jesus had earlier said in verse 32 of chapter 22 of Luke, when Jesus said, "Peter, I have prayed for you. I have prayed that your own faith will not fail. But when you have turned back, you must strengthen your brothers and sisters."